Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Wildcard Devy Show. It is Jack here, your host and guest, all in one this evening as we take a look at the Big Ten Devy preview. But before we get to that, college football is mere days away. I am absolutely buzzing for week 0 beginning this weekend. Have the absolute best time anyone that is going to Dublin for the Georgia Tech Florida State game. It's going to be great fun. I wish I was there, but whoever is, have a great time and just soak in the start of college football 2024. So as I mentioned, this evening I'm going to be continuing our conference preview series off the back of Phil's excellent rundown of the SEC a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to try and follow in his footsteps and find you at least one name to watch for every school in the Big Ten. They might not all be Devy stars, so it might be that they're a sleeper pick or just players that are a ton of fun to watch in college, even if they won't make it onto your fantasy roster. And I apologize in advance. Well, there are a lot of teams to get through. There are a lot of players to talk about. So we're not going to focus on every Devy prospect on every team. And if I skip over one of your favorite prospects or I don't answer a question that you would like me to, then I apologize in advance, but please get in touch with us over on X or via our YouTube channel and let us know. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to do a deeper dive into the players and the topics that you are interested in as the season starts. So without further ado, let's take a look at what the Big Ten is going to look like in 2024. As you're probably aware, there are 4 new teams joining the Big Ten. Those are Washington, Oregon, UCLA, and USC joining the existing 14 teams. 2024 is going to be the first year for the Big Ten without East and West conferences, which seems laughable, as this is probably the only year where East and West makes any kind of sense looking at that map, but there we are. We are going to run through all 18 teams one by one, so please excuse me in not rattling them off one by one right now off the top of my head. Even with that map, I don't want to miss anybody out. You can see Maryland and Rutgers, their logos don't even fit on the little art logo there for their states. So let's dive straight in. And we're going alphabetically today. We're going to look at the Illinois Fighting Illini first. So the major Devy prospect to watch here is Caden Fegan, the running back who is eligible in the 2026 class. Fegan is 6'3", 255 pounds. So he's a behemoth of a running back. Last season, he ran for 438 yards off 95 carries and got himself in the end zone twice off those rushing yards. He also had 9 receptions for an impressive 116 yards and 1 touchdown. But unfortunately, that freshman season was curtailed by a shoulder injury that then required surgery. So his season was cut short, but the hype is really there for 2024. As I say, he's a behemoth of a young man. He has a similar build and playing style to Braylon Allen, who you may know is now at the Jets in the NFL, played for Wisconsin last season. Fegan is a big, physical, explosive bowling ball type of runner. He's really athletic, which NFL scouts are going to like. I think he's a day 3 guy minimum based purely off that athleticism. He's got that as a base to kind of build on with what he can put on tape and the physicality that he can show. He's going to be in a run-first Brett Bielema offense. So there are touchdowns coming for the Illinois running back. I'm looking to acquire Fegan wherever I can at his really low cost right now. But to temper expectations, he's not going to catch a load of passes. And we don't see loads of 240-pound plus backs become feature guys in the NFL. I think the exception to that is Derrick Henry. we've seen with Braylon Allen, he's not yet established himself as a workhorse back. He's going to be the 2, hopefully, to Breece Hall. But Fegan is someone I really like, especially at cost. He is probably the only Devy prospect at Illinois. So rather than running through some of their other players, let's just leave it at Fegan. He's going to be the focal point of the offense, and he's going to be the one that you're going to want to see tape of on Saturdays. Moving on then, we can land at the Indiana Hoosiers. There are a couple of Devy prospects here. You've got Tyler Cherry, the quarterback in the freshman class, so he's eligible in 2027, and transfer wide receiver Elijah Surratt, who's part of the 2025 class. He could be in the NFL draft at the end of this season. So let's start with Surratt. He's a guy with a really fun story. He's definitely one you want to root for. Out of high school, didn't get many or any FBS offers, so he went to the FCS, the lower tier of college football, and played for St. Francis. He put a program record together in his freshman year. He had 42 catches for 700 yards and 13 touchdowns as St. Francis went to the playoffs. Surratt was named as an FCS freshman All-American, first team All-Northeast Conference player. And he took that hype and stock and moved through the transfer portal to James Madison, linking up with head coach Kurt Signetti and offensive coordinator Mike Shanahan. And he put together another great sophomore season, 82 receptions, 1,191 yards and 9 touchdowns as JMU stormed to 11 wins and endeared themselves to the college football world as they made that step up from FCS to FBS football. Surratt himself was awarded a first-team All-Sun Belt honors, and Signetti clearly wanted Surratt to follow him to the Big Ten because Signetti happens to be the head coach at Indiana and clearly got on the phone quite quickly to encourage Surratt to join him after Surratt declared he was entering the transfer portal. Surratt is 6'2", 210 pounds. He's a possession receiver, someone you want to get the ball in the hands of. He's a really physical guy and an excellent blocker. It's a bit of a crowded wide receiver room over at Indiana. A lot of change going on, lots of transfers coming in as the new coaching team want to get a real sense of who their guys are going to be. But Surratt has the opportunity. He has the familiarity with Signetti's offense. Let's see if he can continue to step up. You know, he's gone step by step, FCS to FBS to Big Ten, Power 4 football. So let's see if he can continue that story. Someone to watch, someone who's probably not gone in any of your Devy drafts, but a fun guy to root for. Tyler Cherry, on the other hand, is one of those QBs competing for the starting job straight away, which is exciting to hear for about a freshman quarterback. You've got to be talented to compete to start at a Big Ten program, even if it is not one of the biggest names in the conference. So Tyler Cherry flipped from Notre Dame. He's the number 6 quarterback recruit in the class. So it's a real win for the new coaching staff. He's a 4-star recruit. He's got pretty ideal frame for a quarterback. He's 6'5", 215 pounds, and he's a pro-style passer. So he has a really strong arm. He's an exciting deep passer. There's obviously lots of room for development, as you'd expect with a freshman quarterback. But Signetti has a track record of getting top-end college production out of his quarterback. So we've seen that in Todd Centeo and Jordan McLeod. And Cherry has much higher recruiting pedigree than either of those guys. Obviously, that is college production. There is no NFL materializing for Todd Centeo, and it's unlikely to see that for Jordan McLeod either, although he's still in college and anything could happen. as he is again in a really pass-friendly offense at Texas State. But so it's hope for Tyler Cherry rather than expectation that he develops into an NFL piece. He's a guy that you want to stash, I would say. From the exciting deep pass offense to the turgid, tough watch that was the Iowa Hawkeyes in 2023. It really was a challenge to find many positives in the Iowa offense. And I don't see it getting loads better in 2023. I think in terms of watchability, Iowa are going to be pretty low down the pecking order. They're not going to be top of your watch list on a Saturday. But they do throw a lot to the tight end. And pretty much they only throw to the tight end. Luke Lachey is back for another season at Iowa after ankle surgery. He's the main Devy asset here at Iowa. He's been out with recovery from his ankle surgery, so he only managed 3 games in 2023. Had the opportunity to go into the draft, but turned that down in order to boost his stock. Noting that he has more to prove to the NFL and more to give to Hawkeye Nation, which the fans are obviously delighted to hear and delighted to see him back. Lachey had 10 catches for 131 yards in just the first 2 games last season. And he was poised to have one of those seasons that Iowa tight ends have become famous for. He is a well-rounded prospect. He's got great size and frame. He's 6'6", 253 pounds. He has a wide catch radius. He's strong in contested situations like you'd expect, but he also has soft hands. So someone who is good at catching the ball, using his hands, doesn't need his body to secure that pass. He's a fantastic safety valve for his quarterbacks over the middle. He's a great chain mover, which Iowa quarterbacks need. And I think Cade McNamara is due to win the job again this season, and that is not inspiring for Iowa's wide receivers, certainly. But for Lachey, I think he's going to be the number 1 target in that offense, which is great for him, great for his Devy stock, great for seeing what he can do in the modern NFL where tight ends are going to have to be receivers. And obviously for fantasy football, that's exactly what we need. We don't want great blockers who only block. I'd love to see a bit more of a varied route tree and some deeper targets from Lachey in 2024. There's also question marks about what's his speed and explosiveness like coming off that ankle surgery. He's got day 2 potential, and he is going to be the focal point of that Iowa passing attack in 2024. He has some NFL pedigree too, which we love to see. He's the son of former NFL All-Pro Jim Lachey. And I think, the Iowa tight end has NFL pedigree. You just have to look at the current crop, and there's 3 top-end tight ends in the NFL in TJ Hawkinson, Sam Laporta, George Kittle. Iowa a tight end university for a reason. Because of that, there's also another name to check off for Iowa and keep tabs on, and that's Gavin Hoffman, a high recruit for the 2027 class. He's 6'5", 220 pounds, which is good to see from a freshman tight end. He has explosive tools to play that modern NFL tight end position. And being at Iowa, he's going to get all the opportunity to develop, to put on some bulk, to block well too. So he's a stash candidate. I don't go for many tight ends in Devy drafts. It's not a strategy that I tend to employ, but it's an Iowa tight end. So if you're going to stash any tight ends, make sure they come from Iowa. The next team we're going to look at are the Maryland Terrapins. Maryland don't have loads of NFL pedigree at all, really, certainly in the last few years. Taulia Tagovailoa was their biggest name transfer a few years ago when he committed to Maryland out the transfer portal, but he hasn't made it into the NFL himself. He's kind of stuttered and struggled, didn't know whether to commit. Then he went to the NFL, then he wanted to come back, and he ran out of eligibility, and it was all a bit of a mess. So Roman Hemby has got an upward hill to climb to make it to the NFL. Let's make no mistakes about that. He is someone who has explosive acceleration, which makes him a big play threat. There's a great touchdown run that you can see from last season against Northwestern, 75-yard run where his speed and ability to break tackles, because of that speed, is really on show. He is someone who, as I say, breaks tackles through his speed. He's not going to break through because of his size or necessarily his skill set. He does have good hands. He's elusive in space. He has good vision and patience. But the problem for Hemby is that he is undersized and pretty poor in pass protection. He must improve that pass protection, and he needs to add some physicality, whether that is putting on some bulk in the weight room or being a bit more aggressive, running through defenders. I don't see much of an NFL future for Hemby, but he is eligible in the 2025 class. So probably someone you're looking to scoop up in your supplemental rookie drafts if he does make it to the NFL, rather than someone you're trying to get ahead of the game with. And from the have littles to the have a lots, the defending national champions, the Michigan Wolverines. It hurts me to say that. It hurts me to wax lyrical about Michigan, but what can I say? They're national champions for a reason, even if that is illegitimate. But we'll leave that to the NCAA to decide, shall we? New head coach, new offensive coordinator, but both have been promoted from within. So I expect to see a lot more of the same from Sharon Moore's version of Michigan, as we saw from Jim Harbaugh. Not loads to write home about in the quarterback room. There are two guys vying for the job at the moment. It looks like Alex Orji is going to win the job. Very athletic runner, not a great passer. There's not much to say for this quarterback room from a Devy perspective. There's no JJ McCarthy in there. You know, even JJ McCarthy's draft stock was a surprise, or would have been a surprise if someone had told you that 2 years ago. But he was a step above what is in the quarterback room at the moment. Jaden Davis is a high 2027 4-star recruit, but I just don't have any interest in rostering him right now. Michigan also don't have a good track record of developing wide receivers well either. Josh Gattis is the much maligned offensive coordinator who wasted a lot of Michigan talent, and he absolutely does not get credit for Nico Collins. I love Nico Collins as an NFL wide receiver, but he learned and developed since getting to the NFL. He didn't learn his craft at Michigan. He just wasn't that kind of profile coming into the NFL. And recruits have kind of clocked this too. Michigan have gone from getting 5-star wide receiver prospects or even high-end 4-star commitments, and they're just not getting those anymore. It's low 4 stars at best, because they're just not putting guys into the league. So there's not much to write home about in the wide receiver room. The main guy for Michigan from a Devy perspective is Donovan Edwards, the running back who is eligible in 2025. And his value is absolutely all over the place. So Donovan Edwards has been on the Devy scene for years. He came out of high school with a dazzling pedigree, someone who every school wanted to join their roster. And now there are two camps. He's either completely washed as the Devy prospect, or he's going to jump back into the top tier of 25 running backs this season. There doesn't seem to be loads of in between. And I think that's because we know what his pedigree and skill set is, and we know how friendly the Michigan system is for running backs. Edwards will finally be the lead back in the Michigan offense this season, and he'll have every opportunity to prove that he's an NFL asset. He is going to be productive no matter what, because Michigan has one of the most talented offensive lines, even with the turnover, with the seniors leaving and going to the NFL. They have one of the best offensive coordinators, the best offensive line coaches. Edwards is going to have a big season because he's going to be the lead back in a run-first, good offense, and he has some elite traits that make him a standout rusher and a breakaway option for Michigan's offense. We know he's an excellent pass catcher. We know he's an excellent route runner. We know he has great game-breaking ability with his speed and his agility, but there are so many aspects of his game that just don't live up to the hype. What we need to see is some discipline and consistency running between the tackles. Can you please stop running into the backside of your offensive lineman? There are so many clips on tape where he just reads the hole wrong. He reads the block wrong. And that's what concerns me about Donovan Edwards as a Devy prospect. He is guaranteed success this year, so the stats aren't going to be as persuasive for me in 2024. It is that tape. I want to see some more decisiveness, better vision, better football IQ. Currently, he's either a screaming value as your league is completely out on him, or he's way too expensive to acquire because the owner is holding on to that hope that he's going to elevate himself into the top echelons of the 2025 running back group. I think it's definitely worth seeing if the owner in your league is in the former camp, but otherwise stay far away. He's a low floor, high ceiling prospect right now. Another running back in that Michigan room is Jordan Marshall, a 4-star 2027 prospect. He had a highly productive high school career against some top opposition. He's got good vision, finds the running lane well. So he's a sleeper pick. He's definitely not a power back, but he has all the potential to take over that change of pace or receiving back when Edwards moves on. Whether he can become a more well-rounded lead back and cover all bases, I'm not sure, but a sleeper running back pick for the later rounds of your Devy drafts. And the final prospect we want to talk about, who is getting a lot of buzz at the moment, and it feels like it's come out of nowhere towards the back end of last season. That's Colston Loveland, the tight end, who will be eligible next draft. Loveland converted from a wide receiver, and that's kind of quite obvious in his ball tracking ability downfield. He is good at creating his own separation, so he doesn't have to be thrown open by the quarterback, which thank goodness, because I don't think any of the quarterbacks in the current battle are going to be able to do that for him this year. He has good awareness after the catch. He's able to outrun defenders or beat the angles that a defensive back is taking. He's got great size and strength for a tight end prospect. He's 6'5", 245, 250 pounds, around that mark. And he's got a strong change of direction for someone that moves at that weight. He's probably going to be Michigan's #1 receiving option, which, again, something you probably need to see in a low passing volume attack if Loveland is going to be a fantasy asset, not just an NFL asset. Okay, we're done with Michigan. I can breathe again. On to the in-state rivals, Michigan State Spartans. It is transfer city over at Michigan State. New head coach Jonathan Smith brings quarterback Aiden Charles with him from Oregon State to hopefully lead a revival in the Spartans football program. I really love the potential here. Childs is a dual threat quarterback with great contact balance, and he's shown marked improvement year on year as a passer and with his throwing mechanics. And that's something we've seen mainly on his high school tape, because he's not played loads in college so far as the backup to DJU over at Oregon State. We do know that he's an explosive runner, and he has a huge variance in his future outlook. Someone, again, with a super high ceiling, but the super low floor that he could completely bottom out. Definitely one to keep an eye on as Michigan State go into this full remodel. It might be that 2024 is actually quite a struggle for the whole team. And as they get used to the new head coach, new style, they bring in hopefully some more talent at the wide receiver position, because there's not loads there at the moment. So maybe Charles is someone to watch for your 2025 breakout rather than this season. But we'll see. He's someone I am stashing away before the hype gets too high on him. Another part of that remodeling involves the transfer of tight end Jack Velling. He is eligible. Oh, I didn't say Aiden Charles is a 2026 eligible quarterback, so he's not going to be coming out in the 2025 NFL draft anyway. Jack Velling, however, is 2025 eligible, also coming in from Oregon State. Velling's, again, lots of these tight ends have very similar builds. 6'4", 246 pounds entering his junior year. He's a really reliable target. And most importantly for us, he is a big red zone threat. In his 2 years at Oregon State, he racked up just 35 receptions, but for 719 yards and, most importantly, 11 touchdowns. So he has the production. I'm not sure if he has top-level athleticism to be a really high NFL draft pick, but let's see what he can do. Let's see if he can develop a bit wider route tree, especially further downfield this season. He is proficient at running, short drag routes and slants. I don't play in any leagues that are deep enough to tempt me into taking a tight end. I'm not someone who employs the tactic of taking tight ends in Devy often, but if you're in like a 10-round draft right now, Velling might be worth a late dart throw. Certainly someone to keep an eye out, especially with a wide receiver room that doesn't have loads going for it in 2024. Now, having said that, Nick Marsh is also on this Devy Prospects to Watch list. He is a freshman, obviously eligible therefore in the 2027 class. He's an above-the-rim contested catch guy. Coming out of high school, he's not a refined route runner. He's not really a separator. He's a possession receiver. And I think he probably always will be. I don't think he's going to work too hard on developing those bits of his game. He's a contested catch guy. He reminds me a lot of Keon Coleman, and you can see how successful he has been in college. He's made his way into this early second round of the NFL draft, and he's going to hopefully be the number one wide receiver option at Buffalo Bills next season. So Nick Marsh, an under the radar freshman recruit, someone, again, probably not going to have loads of game time this season. So you just keep an eye, not someone you need to go splashing any Devy picks on at this stage. We are rattling through, but there are a lot of teams to get to. So apologies for the speed. On to the Minnesota Golden Gophers. They have two prospects that we're interested in here. The first of which is Darius Taylor, a running back who is eligible in 2026. So he's just had his freshman season. He is a 6 foot, 215 pound workhorse back. Head coach PJ Fleck has mentioned a committee backfield every offseason that I can remember. And yet year on year, the Gophers have had a bell cow toting the rock 25 odd times a game. And that guy is Darius Taylor, and that is someone you want to have your eyes on as a Devy prospect. You are guaranteed some highlight clips because the offense will run through Taylor. He will have enough touches to make something happen. As a freshman, he started 5 games and was on pace for an absolute blockbuster campaign, averaging 159 yards per game. He could easily lead the Big Ten in rushing yards in 2024, and he'll have ample opportunity to show us whether he has the vision, agility, pass catching skills that we do want to see in Devy prospects in his sophomore season. He's going to get a lot of the ball. The other guy to talk about in Minnesota is Daniel Jackson, a wide receiver who is an intriguing guy. He went off in the second half of 2023 for something like 600 yards in the last 8 games, which is fantastic in an offense that doesn't throw the ball all that much. Currently, I'd say Jackson is a borderline day 2, day 3 guy, but definitely one to watch in 2024. He can and will be the number 1 receiving option for the Minnesota Golden Gophers this season. Now we get to one of the blockbuster quarterbacks, and it's Dylan Raiola, confirmed as the starting quarterback yesterday for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Absolutely no surprises there. We have done a deep dive on this guy in our 2027 quarterback episode, so I'm not going to go over old ground too much here. Raiola is the 102 or the 103 pick in Devy drafts after Jeremiah Smith, and then a toss-up with DJ Lagway, depending on your preference. He's going early second round in most startup Devy drafts. This guy is the hope for the future and the hope of returning Nebraska to the top table of college football. It's an exciting time to follow the Cornhuskers. We'll find out very quickly what Raiola can do. The good thing, or one good thing for Raiola, is that all 5 starters from last year's offensive line are returning, and they make up a pretty good unit. They should be able to protect Raiola pretty well in most games this season. And Raiola likes to throw the ball deep, so he'll be on highlight reels one way or the other, whether he is hitting his receiver or whether he's being picked off. I think we're going to see quite a lot from him on ESPN highlight reels. As we've mentioned, Raiola's a pocket passer. There's not loads of rushing upside there, but the pocket passing ability, the arm strength is good. The deep ball is nice. He's going to have enough fancy upside without that rushing if he puts all of his potential together on the field. Now, the other guy that I've got listed here is Malachi Coleman, a wide receiver who will be eligible in 2026. This guy is a 4-star receiver, in-state recruit, so he was ranked 60th overall, but he looks like he's going to be Raiola's go-to guy on the outside. He's a big guy, highly athletic, he's got good speed, and there are some really acrobatic catches on tape from high school. He didn't get loads of playing time in his freshman season, but certainly looks like he's going to be Raiola's go-to on the outside, and therefore someone we definitely want to keep tabs on in 2024 and beyond. Now, one of the more difficult schools to find a Devy player of note on is the Northwestern Wildcats. I'll be honest, this is not someone I'm looking to acquire anywhere, but AJ Henning, a wide receiver, 4-star recruit who was at Michigan and transferred to the Wildcats. Last season, he had over 400 yards and 4 receiving touchdowns on a team that threw for just over 2,600 yards in total. So he did demand a pretty high share of the targets. I don't expect any New Year's style fireworks out of Northwestern in 2024, but maybe the odd backyard sparkler session for the kids could be on the calendar. And if so, Henning is likely to be the brightest of those small sparklers. Sorry, Wildcats fans, there's just not much here in 2024. In significant contrast, we now get to my Ohio State Buckeyes. There is a plethora of talent on this roster for 2024 and a plethora of talent on this roster for the coming years too. In terms of what has happened at Ohio State over the summer, Chip Kelly has come in from UCLA. He's decided he doesn't want to be a head coach anymore. He just wants to do what he really loves, and that's coach ball and call plays, which is great for Ohio State and excellent for the running backs in particular. And we'll get to those guys in a second. But let's do a rundown of the quarterback room. So Will Howard has been named the starter, coming across from Kansas State. He's a toolsy quarterback. He does a lot of things well. He doesn't do anything at a particularly elite level, but he has a really wide range of outcomes. Now that he's at Ohio State, with all this talent around him, there is the possibility that he's going to impress NFL scouts more and show a bit more than he has been able to at Kansas State, where, let's be honest, his receivers have been brick houses, guys that are huge, that will run through people, but aren't necessarily the most athletic or speedy wide receivers. Howard's definitely a 2024 one to watch. I'm not expecting first or even second round draft capital, to be honest, but there is some potential there. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Also in that quarterback room, you've got Julian Sayin and Air Noland, who are both in the 2027 class. Again, we touched on them in our freshman quarterback episode. Sayin's a pro-style pocket passer. Noland's a bit more of a dual threat guy. You've also got Devin Brown, Lincoln Kinehalls, and Tavion St. Clair coming in next year too. Any number of these guys could transfer out. Don't grab them just because they're a 4-star or 5-star quarterback at Ohio State. It is a messy quarterback room, and at cost, I'm personally not taking a gamble on any of these guys for Devy. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it as a fan. I've been burned by grabbing Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, and seeing how that has worked out for Devy is not great at the moment. McCord's over at Syracuse, and his Devy stock is in the dirt, and we just haven't seen Devin Brown. So if he's not good enough to beat anybody out, I'm not sure whether he's going to have an NFL future. So just sit back, relax, and let somebody else take the gamble on which Ohio State quarterback is the one to own. That's my advice anyway. On to the running back room, which is a lot more certain and a lot more exciting. Trevion Henderson was eligible for the 2024 draft. He's decided to return to school, I think, to be the guy. There's a lot of talk around Ohio State about unfinished business, and certainly for these guys wanting to beat Michigan, having not done so for a little while. Trevion Henderson is the best all-round running back prospect in the 2025 class. He's an elusive runner. He's got rapid acceleration. He reads the line really well, and he's got elite pass catching ability. A healthy season will remind everyone why he is a difference maker for the Buckeyes and show that he can be a top fantasy asset in the NFL. In my mind, he's the only 2025 running back that has a shot at being a first rounder. And I am buying the dip in value with his injury and his return to college. For some inexcusable reason, his value is dropping, and that is going to change very quickly once he sees the field in 2024. The guy he's sharing the backfield with this season is Quinshon Judkins, who will also be eligible for the first time in 2025. What a guy to be sharing the backfield with. Judkins is a fantastic north-south runner, an elite freshman year of 1,567 yards and 16 touchdowns is just ridiculous. He's a power back with great contact balance and strength to fight for yardage. He has really good patience, really good vision behind the line. He's in that top bracket of 2025 running backs too, and I'm sure you've all heard of him. He's definitely gone in any Devy leagues that you are a part of. The wide receiver room, and that is where Ohio State have cut their teeth in terms of NFL pedigree over the last few years. Jeremiah Smith, part of the 2027 class, freshman coming in with all the hype. We waxed lyrical about him a couple of weeks ago. Phil even took him at 101 in a Devy draft last week. So that's over Tet McMillan, over Luther Burden, over Evan Stewart, who all come out this year. And obviously, recency does increase your value in Devy drafts because they're going to be on your squad sooner. I can't talk more about Jeremiah Smith. I'll be here all night. Speaking of that 2025 class, and here is the Buckeyes' #1 receiver for 2024, Emeka Egbuka, a versatile receiver with incredible hands, someone who can line up anywhere across the formation and get open. He is an excellent route runner. He's got great release off the line. He is a star, and he is being forgotten in this 2025 class behind those three that I've mentioned, Tet, Burden, and Stewart. Egbuka belongs in that top tier, but he's being dropped into his own tier below those three, and I don't really understand it. Another one that I am looking to hoover up while his value has dropped. I truly believe that Egbuka continues the run of first-round Ohio State receivers, and I'm not worried about it at all. You've also got Carnell Tate in that room. So you've got Egbuka in the 25 draft. You've got Tate eligible in 26 and Jeremiah Smith eligible in the 27 class. Carnell Tate is my guy, and I am really excited for the challenge he faces this season. So his stock is rising after a really productive freshman season. He eclipsed the higher ranked Brandon Inniss in the Ohio State freshman class. Tate profiles to play on the outside, probably as the X receiver in 2024, but I think we will see him move all over the formation, similarly to Egbuka. He has the NFL traits. The Buckeyes have been able to support multiple first-round receivers at once on the field. Tate will get his opportunity to put his skills on tape, even with Egbuka and Smith there with him. I'm not worried about his stock whatsoever. Now, Ohio State obviously have that glutton of talent, so much so we can't even fit them on the list here on your screen. So you've also got James Peoples, the freshman running back who, if Judkins and Trevion Henderson go to the draft next season, Peoples has that room to himself as it stands. You've got another 2027 wide receiver recruit, Mylan Graham, and still holding out hope for that 5-star recruit, Brandon Inniss, part of the 2026 NFL class. Lots of players there, lots of talent. We'll see how it shakes out for all of them. Hopefully 2024 will be an incredible season for Ohio State. And from one rich school to another, and this is the first newbie school that we'll be looking at, and that's the Oregon Ducks. Led by head coach Dan Lanning, they have an offensive coordinator called Will Stein, who oversaw an electric UTSA offense a few years ago, who college fans and certainly college fantasy football fans will know and love. That quarterback room has a real mix in it. So you've got Dante Moore transferring in, who was a high 5-star recruit to UCLA in the 2026 class. But he looked terrible last season as the starter. The O-line was absolutely atrocious, so at least some of the blame sits elsewhere. But Dante Moore did look lost and was floundering around quite a bit in his freshman campaign. So he transfers over to Oregon even after Dylan Gabriel had already confirmed his arrival. Moore was quite vocal about wanting to sit and learn and then take over in 2025, assuming Dylan Gabriel moves on. Dante Moore's still a really good prospect. He's got a fantastic head coach, a really fun offense to run if he wins the starting job. So I'm not out on Dante Moore. I'm not going out and acquiring him because the price is still too high. He's definitely a Devy guy to watch. He's definitely got the potential of an NFL future. We'll just kind of have to see what happens this year and next year and how he learns and develops as a quarterback, as a college player. Speaking of Dylan Gabriel, he's obviously taking over the starting job. Dylan Gabriel is eligible, was eligible this draft. He can go to the NFL in 2025 if he so wishes. I have no idea what the NFL is going to think of him, but Bo Nix went first round off the back of Dan Lanning's coaching, so I'm kind of open to anything happening. I think his 2024 stat line is going to be ridiculous in this offense. My honest opinion on Gabriel is that he is really good at running a scheme. He is an excellent short yardage passer with accuracy and zip, but whether he's actually a good quarterback, I'm not sure. I just don't know. I'm not investing in Dylan Gabriel, but there are truthers out there. In the running back room, the main man is Jordan James, who will be eligible in 2025 as well. He gets his shot as the main guy now because Bucky Irving has gone to the Buccaneers in the 4th round of the NFL draft. Jordan James initially committed to Georgia, and Oregon managed to flip him, which is great pedigree if Georgia are interested in you as a running back. Last season, James had 7.1 yards a carry, which led the Pac-12. He had 11 touchdowns on just 107 carries. So he's a really efficient runner. He's a big play baller. Whether he's durable enough with a less than ideal frame, I'm not sure. As with pretty much all running back prospects, you want to see a bit more in pass protection and a wider route tree. They're both on my wish list for Jordan James this season. But he's another player that is going to blow up in the 2024 Oregon offense because he is the workhorse back in an electric scheme. So his stock is going to go up. So if you want to get on board with Jordan James, you need to do it now. His stock is going to rise no matter what. Whether that is justified as an NFL prospect, I'm not convinced yet. Someone I'm happy to be wrong on, I guess, if he does turn out to be someone who can handle an NFL workload. Now, Evan Stewart has to be the biggest Devy diamond at the Ducks right now. He's obviously a big name in college. He's a big name at the NFL. He's known in Devy circles throughout the world. So you probably already know all about him. He shone on a stuttering Texas A&M offense. And now he gets to go to the Dan Lanning, Will Stein offense that tends to feature the outside receiver. So that's a big tick for Evan Stewart because that's where he's going to play. Stewart is a first-round NFL receiver in my book easily. He's got a slight frame, but that's not scared NFL franchises off of elite wide receiver prospects in recent drafts, so I'm not worried about that either. He's a great route runner, primed for, yet again, a huge year of production. This Oregon offense is going to produce numbers for their top players. The other wide receiver in the 25 class is Tez Johnson, someone who has exceptional burst and acceleration. He drew a ton of targets from Bo Nix last season. That chemistry is helped by the fact that they are brothers, so no surprise that he managed to draw some targets there. Whether he'll have as many now that Evan Stewart is here and the quarterback is not his brother, we'll see. But his catch and run threat is terrifying. Gabriel will just want to get the ball into Tez Johnson's hands. I think he's going to be a super productive college player that probably plays special teams in the NFL, if I'm honest. He is small. He can only really operate out of the slot at the NFL level. Really, at the college level, he struggles to operate on the outside. That could be great if he finds himself at a franchise that features the slot, a bit like the Rams do with Cooper Kupp, but otherwise he's going to find it really tough to be fantasy relevant. So someone who's going to get a lot of buzz, but probably not the draft capital and fantasy role that we want to see. He's just not going to contribute unless he's in a really specific role in a specialized offense. Also, in the Oregon Devy household, you've got Austin Novosad at quarterback. I mean, watch for a transfer for him. I don't really understand why he's still there now that Moore and Gabriel have come in. But a really fun, exciting quarterback prospect that I really liked in last year's recruiting class. You've got Jeremiah McClellan, Gary Bryant Jr., and eventually you'll have Gaitlin Blair after his 2-year mission with Church of the Latter-day Saints. Really interesting story there. They're all in the wide receiver room too. They're all Devy relevant, as well as tight end Terrence Ferguson, as much as tight ends can be Devy relevant. One name that sadly is just done and dead to me is Jerion Dickey. Last season, he just didn't feature at all. There was one game that Oregon played where there were 18 different receivers that caught a pass, and Dickey wasn't one of them. So he has not earned the trust of the coaching staff. He's not earned the trust of the quarterback. I think he is done as a Devy prospect, unfortunately. Yeah, sorry guys if you own him. Let's move on to Penn State. The Nittany Lions have a lot to prove in 2024, and Drew Aller obviously is the guy that needs a strong season the most. With a new offensive coordinator, Andy Kotelnicki is coming in, who is actually quite exciting. But 2023, the passing attack just wasn't a threat against premier defenses. The raw skills are clearly there for Aller, but can he mature in his reading of the game, in working through his progressions? It would obviously help if his receivers could get open a little bit quicker or a little bit more. There's not loads of separation. There's not loads of talent in the wide receiver room, and there hasn't been at Penn State for quite a while. I think, if I'm honest, I think the head coach, James Franklin, limits Drew Aller a little bit. He wants the quarterback to protect the ball, play a bit more dink and dunk football, not turn it over. But you can't play that way against teams like Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon and expect to win the game. You need Aller to start going back to what he was good at in high school, pushing the ball down the field and winning Penn State games rather than just trying to game manage. He's not a game manager, and that's what he's being asked to do. So loads more to see for Drew Aller. His stock is absolutely tumbling, but he's someone that I still have some hope for. I'd be looking to get him on the cheap if the owner is fully out. I'd be going to pick him up if possible. But the running back room is where we really want to spend our time with Penn State. And they will be the focal point in Andy Kotelnicki's offense if he is unleashed by James Franklin, which is great news for Singleton and Katron Allen. Singleton is a really talented back who just hasn't put the full picture together yet at Penn State. Outside of the hashes, he's an electric runner. He's got great speed and a great running style. Between the tackles, a bit like Donovan Edwards, he leaves a bit to be desired with his vision. He's another guy with a point to prove to remain at the top table of the 2025 running backs. His partner in crime, Katron Allen, this is Phil's guy. I don't feel worthy of talking about him properly, but he's a 5'11", 220-pound physical runner who fights for everything. And that is what you love to see. And I'm sure NFL coaches love to see that too. Allen's still flying under the Devy radar despite Phil's best efforts. But a strong 2024 will see that stock rise. He's another buy now candidate, someone whose price is pretty low, and I can only see it going one way, and that is up. The other names to watch in the Penn State Devy room, Quinton Martin. He's my new favorite 27 running back. Now that I've had a bit more time to watch some tape, he's again someone who, like James Peoples, could take over a running back room if Singleton and Allen both go to the NFL next year. He's a higher recruit, higher caliber running back than James Peoples, so he's someone that could handle that load by himself if that is the way that Penn State choose to go. Wide receiver, you've got Julian Fleming, who's come across from Ohio State, and then Penn State has another school like Iowa who have a strong lineage of putting tight ends into the league. So keep tabs on Tyler Warren. He's as high as, top 3, top 4 tight ends on a lot of Devy boards at the moment. And Andrew Raplier is there too. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you when they're eligible. I think Tyler Warren could go to the 25 draft. But yeah, names to keep an eye on, probably people who will see... someone like Tyler Warren is exactly the kind of tight end that I will end up rostering a lot. Someone who's not been taken in Devy drafts, but makes a name for himself in his senior year and is available in your depleted rookie drafts. We've had a bit of a flurry of teams that have quite a lot of Devy value and Devy potential. We're now on to the Purdue Boilermakers, who really are not in that camp. But it's a great picture, isn't it? Hey? There's not loads to write home about here. The Boilermakers are in a tricky position where they don't attract high-end recruits. And the players that they do develop into stars can be lured away by the transfer portal. And we've seen that with Dion Burks. He's gone to Oklahoma. He's poised to be one of the most productive wide receivers in the 2024 season. So the guy I think is worth watching because he's fun is Hudson Card. You can see from this picture, he's not afraid to stiff arm a defender right in the face. Hopefully he didn't get flagged for that play, but he probably should have done. Card is a fighter, a former 4-star recruit who was at Texas, but lost the starting job and fell down the depth chart, which is not surprising when Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning are committed to Texas, and you just tumble down the depth chart. Hudson Card, I apologize, is a tough cookie. He's a really athletic guy who will run the ball. He'll pick up some touchdowns in the process. Purdue are a fun underdog team to root for, and Card is the guy that is going to lead that offense. So he's definitely the guy to watch over there for the Boilermakers. And now we'll head to one of Phil's other guys. This is Rutgers Scarlet Knights main man, Kyle Monungai, who is eligible for the 2025 running back class. And the buzz around this guy is growing. And I think maybe Phil does have that influence. He's stirring up the pot because Monungai is all over the Devy sphere right now. He is the shining light in a rejuvenated Rutgers offense. The Scarlet Knights are no longer the whipping boys of the Big Ten that they used to be. Monungai is a smaller back, but he's super productive. He led all Big Ten running backs with over 1,200 yards in 2023. That is Rutgers' first 1,000-plus yard rusher since 2012, which when I read that was like, oh, that's not that long ago. That is a long time ago. It's 12 years, and I am older than I like to admit. Monungai is a powerful guy. He's got great lower body strength. He churns out yards after contact. He's got a good burst to get to the second level quickly. I'm just really intrigued to see whether he can live up to the preseason hype in 2024. He's still a value right now, but another season like 2023 and his price is just going to soar. Having said all of that, I have to admit I'm not convinced he has anything particularly special to offer an NFL team. I'm sorry, Phil, you're not going to like me for that. I think he's probably a day 3 power back unless he really shows us something different that he hasn't already in 2024. Not someone I'm investing in, but especially because the price is going up and up. But I'll let Phil come on and counter me on that. in a few weeks' time, if he so wishes. The next new boys are the UCLA Bruins. The exciting thing for UCLA is that, and for NFL fans, is that they'll recognize who the offensive coordinator is. It is Eric Bieniemy, formerly of Kansas City Chiefs and the Washington Commanders. There is potential there for an exciting offensive scheme. The problem is a lack of talent and a dreadful quarterback situation right now that is unclear, murky. There's just not much talent there at all. For Devy purposes, there's a couple of guys to keep tabs on. So J. Michael Sturdivant, wide receiver, who was a really high recruit out of high school. He's a 6'3", 205-pound, perfect NFL frame for an ex-receiver. And that really shows on tape as well. He's incredibly athletic. He has a really good size-speed combination. I have no idea what to expect from the team this season, and therefore I don't know what to expect from Sturdivant either. He's definitely a hold if you bought him on the 5-star recruitment hype, but it's through hope rather than expectation. So someone you want to see succeed, but I'm not certain that it will happen. The other guy to keep an eye on is TJ Harden, who is a junior running back this season, 6'2", 210 pounds, looking to earn a larger workload. He played second fiddle in 2023. It's just a name to watch. I've seen a bit of his tape, and I like some of the flashes that I've seen. Someone to keep tabs on, not someone that I will be drafting at all this year, but keep an eye, keep an ear, see if he can put something special on tape. The next newbies are the USC Trojans. And in terms of Devy prospects to watch, it feels like you have to list the Lincoln Riley quarterback, right? Well, I'm not personally sold on Miller Moss, the quarterback who is eligible in 2025. He's the starter for the first time in his career at USC this season. He came in and ran the offense excellently in the bowl game that Caleb Williams opted out of. He threw for 6 touchdowns in a bowl game, which, that's great. But personally, I'm more interested in the backup, Jaden Mayava, and whether he can actually steal the job from Moss before the end of the season. You've also got Quinton Joyner, the running back, eligible in 2026. He's a name on the cusp of day 2, day 3 at the moment, but someone we've not seen loads of on the field. So someone to definitely watch in 2024. Makai Lemon will bounce back from a disappointing freshman campaign. He is if we were doing a keep, sell, acquire segment this week, my pick would be Makai Lemon. I think he is guaranteed to increase in Devy value because it's dropped so low after his high, probably first round pick in last year's Devy drafts. But the superstar in this room is Zach Branch. He's set to take one of those vacant starting spots. Branch's role obviously set to increase from the kick returner flashes we saw last season to starting wideout. He'll have his opportunity to showcase his ability, to show why he was the number 1 wide receiver in last year's recruitment class. His breakaway speed and his versatility should make him USC's top playmaker in 2024. And the final new team, the Washington Huskies, the national championship runners-up, have been absolutely gutted through the poaching of their head coach and the transfer portal, as well as graduates to the NFL after an historic season for the Huskies. So former head coach of Arizona, Jedd Fisch, takes over after DeBoer heads to Alabama. Will Rogers has transferred in from Mississippi State. He's a system quarterback, a pocket passer. He can run the system really well. He's not very relevant. He's not on my radar really at all. The other quarterback, however, is DeMond Williams, the freshman quarterback, and a small guy, 5'10", 180 pounds, maybe scarily small for a quarterback, but he is electric. He can beat defenders with his arm and his legs. Accurate downfield passer in high school with a great feel for the deep ball. I mean, small athletic guys are few and far between as quarterbacks in the NFL. You're basically looking currently at Kyler Murray, and that's it, with Bryce Young like with an asterisk, a bit of pending, because he hasn't shown that he can do it. Williams will sit behind Rodgers this season and take over the new look Washington Huskies under Jed Fish, and the coaching staff absolutely love this kid. So I'm definitely willing to give him a shot. In the wide receiver room, you've got Denzel Boston, a wide receiver, I have to admit, I don't know loads about, but I've heard his name bounded around as a potential Devy player worth studying. So someone I'm definitely going to look up in 2024. You've also got a transfer, Jeremiah Hunter, coming into that wide receiver room. Washington are going to be good to watch, and those receivers are going to be productive again in 2024. I just don't know how it shakes out. I'm willing to wait and see and be late to the party with this all change Huskies offense. I can't make a stab at calling who's going to be the wide receiver one and whether that means that they're going to be Devy relevant. I'm just not sure, and I'm happy to pay up later if I have to. The last guy to talk about in this room, sorry, I'm skipping over Jonah Coleman. He is a running back in the 2025 class. He's a bit of a bog standard running back coming over from Arizona. I'm not super high on him. Someone who I am high on as a sleeper pick is Adam Muhammad, the running back in the most recent 2027 recruitment class. He's a great receiver out the backfield. He's got really good stop-start ability. He's really young, so he's only just turned 18. And there were concerns over his weight, but he's already started bulking up now he's on campus. So Adam Muhammad is someone that I have heard a little bit of buzz around, and someone that I am excited to kind of plant my flag on as a potential breakout sleeper running back from this freshman class. We have made it to the final team in the Big Ten. We've rattled through 17 colleges. Let's tick off the last one. It's the Wisconsin Badgers. There are a few players on this watch list. I have to be honest, I'm not sure whether any of them are NFL caliber players, but we'll see. Tyler Van Dyke was a darling of mine 2 years ago, but he has been damaged by some terrible head coaches and offensive coach treatment and some bad schemes. So at Miami, he has been treated terribly, and I think he's just been broken by what he's been through. He hasn't had the opportunity to develop. He hasn't had anyone bringing along and developing his skills for his benefit, and unfortunately he's been cast aside. He's shown flashes of his talent every year, but he's never been able to put it all together, definitely not consistently. Someone I would love to prove me wrong and get back on track. I just don't see it happening at Wisconsin. But I'm really pleased for him that he's got a starting gig. It sounds like he's won the quarterback battle over there. Wide receiver room, you've got Will Pauling, someone who will demand a high target share out of the slot position. Could see himself as a slot wide receiver in the NFL on a depth chart, but he's not really a viable NFL fantasy option as it stands. Worryingly, he's definitely Wisconsin's best receiving option. Worryingly, over the summer, we've heard that coaches want to limit his usage and not over target him. I don't understand why you would say that when you... Yeah, I'm not sure what the plan is in Wisconsin, whether that's a smokescreen or whether they're just trying to protect Pauling from injury. I'm not sure. But worries me a little bit about what the Wisconsin offense is going to look like. The lead running back at Wisconsin is Chez Mellusi. And Wisconsin running backs historically do translate well to the NFL. Obviously, at the moment, you've got Jonathan Taylor spearheading that for the Colts. Malusi's not of that caliber. He's just a guy, really, to be honest. He shared the backfield with Braylon Allen last year, and Braylon Allen is more talented and hasn't made it. Didn't make it into the first or second round of the NFL draft. So my hopes on Malusi aren't high, but he is going to be a productive north-south runner. He's a big guy. He's going to bowl through people and over people. He's going to have a lot of touchdowns because Wisconsin are going to run the ball quite a lot in 2024. One fun thing, certainly for Wisconsin, is that they have some great home games this year. So we'll get to see quite a bit of these guys maybe in prime time. They host Oregon, Penn State, and Alabama in 2024. That's a lot of fun for the fans and a great opportunity to make a statement. There are a couple of sleepers on this team as well. Both are 2027 running backs, so Darian Dupree and Dylan Jones. I don't know whether they will both or one of them will stand out. I think they both have a chance to get on the field in 2024. So those are a couple of names to put on the back of your watch list just in case. And there we have it. That is a lot to take in. It was a lot of fun to run through that for you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Apologies if I have left off any of the Devy prospects you were hoping to hear more about. Please come at us on X with anything we've missed, anything you disagree with, or any questions you want us to tackle on the back of this Big Ten preview. We are going to be back together in a couple of weeks' time to preview some of the other conferences, the ACC, the Big 12, and maybe some of the Devy stars from the Group of Five. Until then, enjoy the start of college football. I can't wait to get my eyes on the telly, my butt on the sofa, taking in as much as possible. Until next time, make sure you're following us on X at Wildcard Devy, and make sure you're following the whole Fantasy Wildcard crew at Fantasy Wildcard on X and YouTube. Thank you very much, and good night.